The crimson sun of Proxima Centauri cast long shadows across the alien landscape as Dr. James Harrison adjusted his environmental suit's sensors. After 6 years of interstellar travel, he still couldn't believe he was the first human to set foot on Proxima B. The planet's rust-colored plains stretched endlessly before him, dotted with crystalline formations that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. As Earth's leading xenolinguist, James had been chosen to make first contact with the newly discovered civilization on this world. The automated probes had detected signs of advanced technology, but nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to encounter. A low hum filled the air, and the crystalline formations around him began to pulse more intensely. James checked his instruments, heart racing as they detected an approaching energy signature. The air before him shimmered like a heat mirage, and suddenly she appeared. Empress Nara materialized with an otherworldly grace that took his breath away. Her skin had a subtle iridescent quality, shifting between deep purple and midnight blue. Her eyes glowed with an inner light that reminded him of distant stars. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her presence both regal and intimidating. "Dr. James Harrison," she spoke, her voice resonating directly in his mind. "We have been watching your approach for some time." James bowed slightly, remembering his diplomatic training. "Empress Nara, I come in peace as a representative of Earth." "Peace?" She moved closer, her movement fluid like liquid mercury. "Your kind speaks of peace while your thoughts betray darker intentions. We have seen your history, your wars, your endless conflicts." "We've learned from our mistakes," James replied, maintaining his composure despite his racing heart. "We seek only to understand and learn from other civilizations." Nyara's luminescent eyes narrowed. "Understanding comes with a price, Dr. Harrison. My people, the Luminari, have protected this sector of space for millennia. We cannot risk the chaos your species might bring." "Then let me prove humanity's worth," James offered, surprising himself with his boldness. The Empress studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. "Perhaps, there is a way. Our laws allow for integration through union. Become my consort, bind yourself to our people through marriage, or remain here as our prisoner until we determine humanity's true intentions." James felt as if all the air had been sucked from his suit. "Marriage? That's quite a proposal for a first meeting." "It is not a proposal born of romance, Dr. Harrison, but of necessity. Our seers have foreseen that humanity's path will intersect with ours. This union would ensure that intersection happens peacefully." As James considered her words, he noticed movement in his peripheral vision. More luminari had appeared, their forms shimmering into existence around them. Their presence made it clear that this wasn't a simple diplomatic meeting, it was a turning point for both their species. "And if I refuse both options?" he asked, already suspecting the answer. "Then we will have no choice but to consider humanity a threat," Nara stated simply. "Your ships would never reach this system again." James thought of Earth, of the hopes pinned on this mission. He thought of the centuries of human dreams about contact with alien civilizations. Now that moment had arrived, and it had taken an unexpected turn that no one could have predicted. "How long do I have to decide?" "Until the third sun sets," Nara replied, gesturing to the horizon where a smaller star was beginning to dip below the crystalline plains. "Choose wisely, Dr. Harrison. The fate of 2 civilizations may depend on it." As the Empress and her entourage shimmered away, leaving him alone on the alien plane, James activated his comm link to his orbiting ship. "Base, we may have a situation here. You're not going to believe what just happened." The crystalline formations pulsed around him, their rhythm somehow different now, as if they were counting down the moments until his decision would shape the future of human-alien relations forever. The imperial palace of the Luminari defied human architecture in every conceivable way. James followed Empress Nara through corridors that seemed to be made of living light, their walls shifting and flowing like auroras. After accepting her offer of marriage, a decision that still felt surreal, he had been brought to what would become his new home. "Your quarters," Nara announced, waving her hand at a doorway that materialized from seemingly nowhere. The room beyond was a perfect blend of alien luxury and familiar comfort, as if the Luminari had studied human living spaces and recreated them with their own technological artistry. "You've been preparing for this," James observed, noting the Earth-standard furniture alongside mysterious Luminari devices. "How long have you really been watching us?" Nyara's luminescent eyes flickered with something that might have been amusement. "Longer than your civilization has been recording its history. We have watched many species rise and fall, Dr. Harrison. Humanity's rapid advancement intrigued us." Before James could respond, a melodic chime echoed through the palace. Nyara's expression shifted to one of concern. "The council demands your presence." Earlier than expected. The council chamber was a vast amphitheater suspended in what appeared to be open space, though James could breathe normally. 7 Luminari elders sat in a semicircle, their forms more ethereal than Nyara's, as if they were barely maintaining physical form. "The human accepts our terms," one of the elders spoke, their voice resonating in James's mind. "But can we trust the word of a species that so readily destroys itself?" "I've studied humanity's languages, their cultures," James responded, standing straighter. "Yes, we've made mistakes. Terrible ones. But we learn, we adapt, we grow. That's what makes us different." Another elder leaned forward, their form shimming like starlight. "You speak of growth, yet your kind reaches for the stars with weapons in hand. Even now, your ship orbits our world with destructive capability." "Standard defense protocols," James argued. "Would you trust a species that approached you completely defenseless? That would show either deception or foolishness." A murmur of what might have been approval rippled through the council. Nara stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "The human speaks truth. Their caution mirrors our own. Is that not why we chose this path?" The first elder raised a hand, silencing the chamber. "There is more at stake than mere diplomacy. The darkness approaches, and the prophecy speaks of a union between stars." "Perhaps." The elder's form flickered momentarily. "Perhaps this human's arrival is not mere chance." James glanced at Nara, noting the tension in her stance. "What darkness? What prophecy?" "That is enough," Nara cut in sharply. "The council has other matters to attend. Come, James. There is much you must learn about your new home." As they left the chamber, James caught her arm, an action that drew startled looks from nearby Luminari. "No more secrets, Nara. If I'm to be your consort, I need to know what I'm walking into." She studied him for a long moment, her ethereal beauty somehow more pronounced in the starlight chamber. "Very well. But knowledge, once given, cannot be returned. Are you certain you wish to know? I crossed light years to understand your people. I'm not stopping now." Nara led him to a secluded garden where crystal flowers sang softly in an alien breeze. 3 centuries ago, our seers received a vision. They saw a great darkness consuming worlds, an ancient enemy returning. But they also saw hope, a union between 2 peoples, one of light, one of innovation. A joining that would bring balance to the galaxy. And you think that's us? Humans and Luminari? The Council believes so. That is why they agreed to my plan for your arrival. But there are others who would prevent this union. The Shade Weavers, a faction that believes isolation is our only path to survival. As if summoned by her words, a shadow passed over the garden. The crystal flowers fell silent. James felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. "They're here, aren't they? The Shade Weavers?" Nyara's form began to glow more intensely. "Yes. And now we will see if your presence truly is part of the prophecy, or merely the beginning of our end." The garden's light dimmed as multiple figures materialized around them, their forms darker and more angular than typical luminari. James reached for Nara's hand, surprising both of them with the instinctive gesture. As their fingers intertwined, a burst of energy pulsed from the point of contact, pushing back the encroaching shadows. The Shade Weavers hesitated, their dark forms rippling with uncertainty. Nara stood taller, her voice ringing with authority. It seems the prophecy speaks truth after all. James squeezed her hand, feeling the energy flowing between them. I hope you're right. Because I think this is just the beginning. Deep within the crystalline heart of the Imperial Palace, the Archive of Ages hummed with ancient power. James followed Nara through chambers filled with living memories, where history itself danced in holographic displays. Their recent encounter with the Shade Weavers had changed something between them, turning their political arrangement into something neither had expected. The prophecy is stored here, Nara said, placing her hand on a crystal pillar. The air shimmered, and symbols appeared, swirling around them in complex patterns. Our most sacred text, written by the first seers. James studied the symbols, his xenolinguist's mind already working to decipher their meaning. These patterns, they're similar to the crystalline formations on the surface. Your written language mimics your natural environment. Perceptive, Nara smiled, the expression transforming her usually stern features. The crystals were our first teachers. They showed us how to harness light itself. She waved her hand, and the symbols rearranged themselves. This speaks of the coming darkness. An ancient race that once ruled this galaxy through fear and destruction. The holographic display shifted, showing massive ships of obsidian black, their designs jagged and threatening. The Void Dominion, Nara continued. They were defeated millennia ago, but not destroyed. Our seers warn of their return. And this prophecy, James moved closer to the display, it says humans are part of the solution? Not humans specifically. The prophecy speaks of those who forge their path through innovation and determination, who reach for the stars despite their limitations. Our council interpreted this to mean humanity. A distant explosion rocked the archive, sending ripples through the holographic displays. Alarm chimes echoed through the crystal corridors. Nara's form tensed, her light pulsing with concern. The Shade Weavers, she hissed. They're making their move earlier than expected. James reached for her hand instinctively, remembering how their touch had generated that defensive energy before. We need to get this information to my ship. Earth needs to know what's coming. Agreed. Nara placed her free hand on the crystal pillar again, her form glowing brighter. But first, you need to understand everything. The prophecy speaks of more than just the Void Dominion's return. It speaks of transformation. The symbols swirled faster, forming new patterns. James watched in amazement as images formed, humans and luminari, their forms somehow merging, creating beings of both light and matter. Is this evolution? The next step for both our species, Nara confirmed. The Shade Weavers fear this change. They believe it will dilute our essence, destroy what makes us luminari. But the first seers saw it as salvation. Another explosion, closer this time. The crystal walls vibrated with warning frequencies. Through their joined hands, James could feel Nara's energy pulsing with determination. Your ship, she said suddenly. It has weapons that can affect energy-based beings? Yes, we developed them as a precaution. But they're defensive, designed to disrupt rather than destroy. Perfect. Nara's eyes gleamed. The Shade Weavers expect us to fight with light. They won't be prepared for physical weapons. She pulled him toward a hidden passage as the sounds of battle grew closer. We need to reach the communication array. If we can contact your ship. The passage opened into a vast chamber filled with crystal spires that reached toward the stars. But they weren't alone. A dozen Shade Weavers materialized, their dark forms blocking the path to the array. Empress, one of them spoke, voice like crackling energy. This heresy ends now. The human must die, and you must return to the pure path. Nara straightened, her form blazing with light. Our path was never meant to be pure. It was meant to be shared. She squeezed James's hand. Ready? James nodded, feeling the energy building between them again. Together? Together. The chamber erupted in a battle of light and shadow, but this time, James and Nara were prepared. Their joined energy created something new, not just light, not just matter, but a perfect fusion of both. The Shade Weavers fell back, unprepared for this evolved form of combat. As they fought their way toward the array, James realized the prophecy wasn't just about saving their civilizations from the Void Dominion. It was about creating something entirely new, a future where humanity's ingenuity and the Luminaries' mastery of light could forge a power greater than either species alone. The Imperial Palace's communication array pulsed with energy as James's message reached his orbiting ship. Through the crystalline windows, he could see the first signs of the Void Dominion's arrival, dark tears in space where their obsidian ships emerged. Beside him, Nara coordinated with the Luminari fleet, her form glowing with determination. Your ship confirms the disruption weapons are ready, James reported, studying the tactical displays. But we'll need more than that to face what's coming. The Council has activated the ancient defenses, Nara responded, her voice tight with concern. But the Shadeweaver's attack has weakened our protective barriers. We're vulnerable. The tactical display showed more Void Dominion ships emerging from hyperspace. Their design was organic yet mechanical, like living darkness given form. Among them, James spotted smaller vessels, Shadeweaver ships, joining forces with humanity's ancient enemy. They're working together, he growled. The Shadeweavers are actually helping them. Fear makes for strange alliances. Nara's hand found his, their now familiar energy synchronizing instantly. The Void Dominion promised them purification, the removal of all non-energy-based life from the galaxy. They believe it will preserve our species. A massive explosion rocked the palace as the first wave of enemy ships engaged the Luminari defenses. The crystalline spires sang with warning frequencies, their light pulsing rapidly. Through their connected energy, James felt Nara's pain as parts of her city suffered damage. We need to evacuate the civilian population, James insisted. My ship can dash. No, Nara cut him off, her eyes blazing. We stand together. The prophecy spoke of this moment, the time when light and matter must join as one. She turned to face him fully. James, what we discovered in the archive, the energy we create together, it's more than just a weapon. It's evolution. The palace shook again as another barrage hit the shields. James watched as Luminari ships engaged the enemy, their light-based weapons seeming to slide off the Void Dominion's dark hulls. But where human disruption weapons struck, the darkness cracked, creating vulnerabilities the Luminari could exploit. Your weapons weaken their defenses, Nara observed. Our light can then pierce their armor. Together dash. We're stronger, James finished. An idea struck him. The energy we generate when we touch, could we amplify it? Channel it through your defense grid? Nara's eyes widened. The crystal heart. The source of our city's power. If we could synchronize our energy with it. Another explosion, closer this time. Through the windows, they could see Void Dominion drop ships launching toward the surface, while Shadeweaver forces emerged from shadow portals within the city itself. We'll need to fight our way to the heart, James said, checking the disruptor pistol his ship had transported down. Through both Shadeweavers and Void Dominion forces. Nara's form shifted, her usual ethereal appearance becoming more solid, more battle-ready. Then we fight. My people are evacuating to the lower levels. We'll have one chance at this. They moved through the palace corridors, their joined energy deflecting attacks from both shadow and void forces. James's disruptor created openings in their enemies' defenses, while Nara's light struck with devastating precision. They fought as one being, their movements synchronized, their powers complementing each other perfectly. The crystal heart chamber was a vast cathedral of living crystal, its central column pulsing with the combined energy of countless generations of luminari. But dark forces had reached it first. Shade weavers surrounded the heart, channeling corrupt energy into its pure light, while Void Dominion soldiers planted devices of living darkness on its surface. "They're poisoning it," Nara gasped, her light flickering with horror. "They're turning our own power source against us." James squeezed her hand, feeling their combined energy surge. "Then we'll cleanse it. Together." He raised his disruptor. "Ready?" Nara's answering smile was fierce and beautiful. "For our peoples. For our future." They charged into battle, their combined power blazing like a newborn star. The crystal heart pulsed with corrupted energy, its pure light tainted by streams of darkness. James and Nara stood before it, their combined power creating a shield against the onslaught of both Shade Weavers and Void Dominion forces. Above them, through the crystal dome, they could see the space battle raging, human ships and luminary vessels fighting side by side against the ancient enemy. "The heart's corruption is spreading," Nara warned, her form flickering as she fought to maintain their shield. "If it reaches the city's power grid, then we end this now." James raised his disruptor, targeting the dark devices planted on the heart's surface. "Your light, my disruption, channeled together through the heart itself." They moved as one, their merged energy flowing like liquid starlight. James's disruption beams shattered the void devices, creating fissures in the darkness. Through these cracks, Nara's light struck with surgical precision, burning away the corruption. The Shade Weavers launched a desperate attack, their shadow forms merging into a massive wave of darkness. "You destroy everything we are," their collective voice boomed. "Our purity, our essence." "No," Nara's voice rang with authority. "We become more than we are." She turned to James, her eyes blazing. The prophecy wasn't about preservation, it was about transformation. "Show them." Their hands clasped tighter, and this time they didn't just channel their energy, they surrendered to it completely. James felt his consciousness merge with Nara's, their separate forms dissolving into pure energy. Where they had been two beings of matter and light, now there was something new, a fusion of both, more powerful than either alone. The crystal heart responded, its corruption burning away as their transformed energy flowed into it. The chamber filled with blinding light, but this light was different, it carried within it the solidity of matter, the strength of human determination merged with luminary grace. Through their merged consciousness, they directed this new power outward. The Shade Weavers recoiled as the wave hit them, not destroying their shadow forms but transforming them, showing them a new way of existing. Above, the Void Dominion ships found their darkness-based technologies useless against this evolved energy. "My God," James's voice echoed through their shared mind. This is what the prophecy meant. Not just an alliance, a true union. The next step in both our species' evolution, Nara's thoughts merged with his. "Look." Through the crystal dome, they could see their transformed energy spreading across the city. Where it touched luminari, they became more solid while maintaining their light. Where it reached humans, they gained the ability to channel energy while keeping their physical form. Two species, becoming something greater together. The Void Dominion ships began to retreat, their ancient weapons useless against this new form of life. The Shade Weavers, transformed by the energy, saw their fears of change replaced by understanding. The battle was over, but the transformation was just beginning. Slowly, James and Nara separated back into individual forms, though something of their union remained, a constant flow of energy between them, a bridge between their species' strengths. "The Council needs to see this," Nara said, her now solid hand still clasped in his. All of them need to understand what we've discovered. James nodded, watching as the transformed citizens of the city began to explore their new abilities. Earth needs to know too. This isn't just about saving our civilizations from the Void Dominion. This is about becoming something more. Together, Nara smiled, her light pulsing in harmony with his newfound energy. Together, James agreed, pulling her close. Their kiss merged matter and light, human and luminary, past and future, a symbol of everything they had become and everything they would create. Above them, the crystal spires of the city sang with new frequencies, celebrating the dawn of a new era. The prophecy had been fulfilled, not through war or preservation, but through union and evolution. As the twin suns of Proxima B rose over the horizon, they illuminated a civilization transformed, no longer just human, no longer just luminary, but something gloriously, powerfully new.